This is the trial that we did this last summer, where we applied several rates of SP-1 alone and or SP-1 with an impregnated fertilizer with Simulate and Excite, or just impregnated fertilizer by itself, and of course a check. And so as you're looking on a soil here, 1 is the check, 2 is impregnated fertilizer only, 3 is going to be the impregnated fertilizer with 1.5 gallons of SP-1, 4 is 1.5 gallons of SP-1 by itself, 5 is 3 gallons of SP-1 per acre by itself, and 6 is going up to 6 gallons per acre of SP-1. Not only do you want to look at the corn ears, but also take a look at the soil that's adhering to all these plant samples, as well as the root structure from 1 through 6. And the obvious thing you're going to see here is that when we get to SP-1 treatments, the soil has a very good tilt to it. It really wants to fall off the roots as you pull them out of the ground. Whereas with treatment 1, the soil is relatively compacted, and you get a bunch of soil that's not going to dissipate or fall off very easily. And so we're seeing a nice effect of SP-1 on soil tilt, but also we're seeing a corresponding effect of SP-1 on ear production. And the other obvious thing that I can see here is that if you look at treatment 5, you're seeing good tip fill, but with no mold on the tips. When you look at treatment 1, you're seeing poor tip fill, and several of the ears have mold on the tips. So we think there's a really good relationship between using SP-1 for corn production and reducing the potential for moldy ears in a production system. Scott?
Thanks, Mike. One of the things I can speak of is a little bit about my experience with SP-1, and then the other is just some of the observations that we've seen here today. And the first thing that comes to my mind is the soil health, and particularly when I work with a lot of produce, specifically potatoes. When we go to dig a field with soil health that looks like number 6 there, it sure is a lot easier to get the acres harvested, and we have a lot less soil in the trucks heading back to the farm to unload. So that's the first thing that I've noticed through my observations today is soil health. The other thing is the ears definitely have some differences. We tried to pull random samples, but the one thing for sure, as Mike had mentioned, is the ear mold. And I see this in some of the farms where I've worked with SP-1 side by side with comparing it to some traditional NPK fertilizer. And we definitely have a little less diploidia ear rot where we have the SP-1. Another observation I'll make is here in State College, this is some pretty beat up soil. Just when it comes to soil health score, it's not your highest, that's for sure, in the state. So it's down there with hard to farm ground. It's either too wet or too dry. There's hardly ever any in between. And for someone that's farming a soil that's beaten up like this, that typically likes to repel water instead of absorb water, you really want to look at this SP-1 product. The SP-1 by far has done a lot to help us with these poor soils, what I'll just call lack of oxygen in the soil, you know, porosity, airspace. We forget how important airspace is to the soil component. We got the mineral, we got the carbons, we got the water, but then we got to have airspace. And if we don't have airspace, we don't have roots, we don't have root tips. Therefore, if we don't have root tips manufacturing on the plant all season long, we reduce our uptake of water, our uptake of fertilizer, our uptake of vitamins, enzymes, carbons. All those things are limited when we don't have root tips and root hairs developed in late into the season. So that's the other observation I'll make is the one plant that I pulled up here, which is this one right here, number 3, which happens to be the impregnated fertilizer with the SP-1. We probably have more white root hairs showing on some of this in the core than we do on any of the other samples. So that to me is important. That means we carry that plant longer into the year with that root system, which helps to finish the crop.
Well, 3 is the addition of SP-1 to impregnated fertilizer with Stimulate and Excite.
Exactly right.
So what we're really showing is there's a combination effect the hormonal chemistry of stimulate and excite
with the biological.
With the biological.
That's exactly right.
The thing that I've been looking at with Mike Netz and Scott, the Growmark Group, and a number of individual farmers, Jerry Stoller always says stress starts in the roots.
Exactly.
And with this soil changing to what we're seeing, how hard this check is here at State College, our fertility can't work. It's not as effective as once we begin to get biology to work with the soil, and it's actually the roots, the fertilizer, and we'd almost have to say this is almost the best soil root structure. Would we not, Scott?
Absolutely.
But I think also you want to recognize that when you have the lowest rate of SP-1, look at the root structure here versus a check. I mean, this is double the root system. And all it is SP-1 at 1.5 gallons per acre. Broadcast. So it's the biological effect that's helping root growth and probably helping nutrient uptake.
No question. But when we couple Stoller's technology of stimulate excite on dry fertilizer, put in some SP-1, it almost takes 6 gallons of SP-1
to mimic the same thing as the combination.
Dr. Orzolek and Scott Barnett and myself would like to say thank you very much for taking our video in today. And we're going to take these ears, we have every rep sampled, we're going to do some kernel counts, some kernel weights, and take a look at what we have, and then we're going to have this actually yielded by their computer combine here at Penn State. The thing is understanding how you got the yield. How did you get there? What did you get? More ears? And of course, another thing, when you're in dairy land and livestock land, mold is not good. And if we can reduce stress on the roots, like Jerry Stoller would say, using a combination of technology, we've noticed all year as